Well, it's dropped. The new Helix is here and it looks gorgeous. It looks really impressive. Have a look at that. You know what? That's a sexy floor controller, isn't it? That's a sexy thing. So, there's loads to discuss on it. To be honest, my mind is a little bit blown by how much it can actually do. It's so much more than just a guitar processor. It really, honestly, trust me, it is. We'll get into some of the details, but before we get into the details, I've got to show you this. On the live presentation that Line 6 did to the entire world, one of the slides they showed was this. And can you see what's there in the corner, to quote REM? There I am. I'm famous. Wow. This video is not sponsored. However, Line 6, if you are looking for somebody else to test, demo and do lots of videos on this product over the next few years, then I may be able to help. Right, let's crack on. There are two versions of this new Helix. Just like we had two versions of the Helix before, there's a big one and a little one. Well, this time they are actually a different size. Now, it's called the Stadium, and this is the Helix Stadium XL. And then above it, the slightly smaller one, is just the Helix Stadium. The difference between the two models is, well, the engines and the electronics inside and all the things they do are exactly the same. There's the same power, everything's the same. Except for physically, this one has the rocker pedal on it, and this one doesn't, and this one has the scribble strips. So on the back, you've got quite a lot. Little one on the top, a big one on the bottom. This section here is exactly the same. MIDIs, SP diffs, you've got your USBs, you've got this Nexus thing, which will come on later. And they've both got a micro SD slot. Now, when you find out how much this can do and all the things that it's capable of, you'll soon see why they've got a micro SD slot on it. And this is not just a guitar processor. This is a platform. And it can do an awful lot of things. And they've already said, look, we're not sure what we're going to do with it. This is what we've got so far. We've got a lot of things coming that we haven't, or that we can't tell you about. And the plan apparently is that this unit lasts a long time. The last one was only supposed to last 3 or 4 years, and we got 10 years out of it. So let's see what happens with this, because this looks pretty powerful. Back to the differences, the ins and outs, XLRs, jacks, headphone outputs, they're all the same. There's a mic in on both of them. That could be interesting. Remember, it's a platform with just ins and outs, and it's a computer in the middle, and it can do all sorts of things. So we'll come to that in a second. We've got 4 effects loops on the big one, 4 effects loops. The number of effects in this thing and the things it can do in future, what are you going to do with 4 effects loops? But nevertheless, it's got 4 effects loops. The little one's only got 2. Again, stereo effects loops. Then you've got an instrument in and a control A/B, and on the big one you've got 2 instrument ins and 2 controllers. Okay, so that's basically the difference between them. Let's have a look at the physical size of it. Yes, they're both smaller than the existing Helix, both smaller. So the XL is 492 millimeters by 257, and it weighs 5¼ kilograms. So it's quite a lot smaller, which is good, because the last one was bloody enormous. The smaller one, the Stadium, is 408 by 241, which is much more reasonable, and it's not even 3½ kilograms. So that's not going to break your back either, is it? Okay, now this is the big thing for me. Helix amp models have always not quite done it for me. And that's why I've gone on to capture technology with everything else. And I've been using my captures on the Tonex with my HX Stomp, and that's what's on my board at the minute. And it sounds great. But Helix, or Line 6 rather, have redone their amps. And they've got this new amp program thing called Agora, which is named after the street the factory's on. Well, it's new amp modeling, but it's mega detailed. So, how detailed is it? Well, they're emulating tube amps, but obviously they're emulating tube amps, but what they're doing is not just emulating a particular kind of vacuum tube, but they're emulating how that tube behaves and interacts in specific amplifiers. Not just how the tube interacts and behaves on its own, in specific amplifiers. So it might be the same tube, but it'll behave different in a different amp with different resistance and different things going on. So they've modeled that specific to every amplifier. Okay, that's a lot of detail. Then this power stage, they've modeled the power stage because a transformer makes other things behave differently. And then the interplay between the transformer and the rest of the amplifier, which can make a huge difference to the way the amp responds and the way the amp feels. So when you hit that big plexi and you go bash on it and you hear the amp just suck and then come back, I'm expecting it to do those things. Then they've also modelled plate voltage and sag bias behaviour, and if you know what that all means, that's great. Interplay between cabs and amp blocks. So when a big amplifier goes into a speaker, the speaker isn't completely separate, there's always interplay between them. In the digital world until now, what's happened is you've had your amp block and your cab block, and then it goes from your amp into the cab block, and the cab block then does its thing on it. In the real world, the cabinet fights back and the resistance of a speaker changes as more volume is pumped into it and as it's hit harder. They're modelling that now. Okay, so there are 16 of these Agora amps at the minute. That say there's going to be more, and I've absolutely no doubt there will be. And there are 6 bass amps. They haven't said what kind of amps they are or what they're modelled on, but I'm guessing it's the basics. I'm guessing you're going to have a Plexi, you're going to have a Fender, you might have a JCM 800, you might have a Boogie or a rectifier and things like that. All the really popular amps they're going to do first off, I think. Then we've got this thing called the hype control. Now, that's interesting because an amp behaves in a particular way in the real world. And when you hear it recorded, you're hearing a sort of slightly sanitized version of it because it's been EQ'd, it's gone through a mixing desk, through a microphone, through your stereo, and then it's into your ears. So it doesn't sound like the amp in the real world. What they've got with this hype control is they've got something that sort of, I hate to use the word because it's not really a good word to use, but sanitizes it and cleans it up and makes it behave in a way that would be more like what you're likely to hear on a recording, or it makes it behave better. Or you can dial back the hype control and have the amp behave like it actually does. Interesting. Right, Proxy. This for me is the big thing. There's lots of other things that are even bigger, but for me this is the one that I have been wanting from Helix, and it's called Proxy, and effectively what it is, it's amp captures. So it's about time Helix did amp captures, and it's about time we had something as good as this in Helix. So they're having a cloning engine. It's not here yet, so at the launch they're not going to have it, but it's apparently coming next year. So that's their own version called Proxy. Here's when it gets really interesting. What they've said is they're not ruling out open source captures, which to me means NAM captures. And if they're going to put NAM captures in Helix, I'd buy it just for that. Just for that. So we're going to get the best of a multiplex. Yeah, this is game changing. This really is game changing. As far as training models are concerned, it's going to be able to do captures, unlike something like Tonex, where you need another thing to do the capture with. This is going to do it on its own, in the same way that Kemper or Neural does. But it's going to do it on the cloud. So what you do is, you do your capturing, use the unit to do the ins and outs and all that kind of thing, and then it uploads what it's found to the cloud. It does all the machine modeling and all the AI stuff, and then when it's done, it downloads it back to you and pops it into Helix for you. Okay, the interface. Right, it's got a couple of extra encoders. You can probably see that on the screen. There's a whole row of knobs there. It's got a touchscreen. Obviously, it's got a touchscreen. We knew it was going to have a touchscreen, but it's quite a big touchscreen and it looks very, very nice. The scribble strips apparently are better than the screen on the old Helix. So I'm expecting them to look good and I'm excited to see them. Parameters have guides. That's interesting. You know what, when you hover over something in Windows and it does a little drop down and it tells you what it means? Well, parameters in Helix are going to be able to do that. So you hold your finger over something and it will bring up a little drop down that tells you what that parameter does. So, you know, most of the time, like bass, treble, it's fairly obvious. But when you get into more complex parameters or things that are on effects pedals that are a little bit, what can I say, esoteric sounding, then you've got an explanation there as to what it's actually going to do. That's clever, I like that. But you see what I mean about power and it being a platform? Okay, another cool one. Because it's so big and does so much, it's got a search function. So you can actually, just like you can on Windows or on Apple, you can search for things in a search box. Cool. And not only that, you can search for amps by the actual name of the amp. So if you want a Plexi, you just write in Plexi. You don't have to know what line 6 are calling a Plexi. That's useful. Okay, focus view. This is cool. So it's got touch zones with descriptive parameters such as squishy. This one says chunky, and you move between them. Right, think of it like this. On your screen, you can touch the screen and move around in different axes, and as you move along that way, it will take whatever descriptor you're working with, in this case chunky, and if you move it that way, it will make your sound more chunky by adjusting the parameters, the ordinary parameters, like the amp knobs, etc. at the bottom. But if you want it just to be more chunky, it will do that. If you want it to be thinner, it will find there'll be a thinner parameter. And each amp will have a range of parameters that you can just mess about with like that. And what it'll do is it'll change all of your other controls to match that. So you can have one finger sliding about on that screen to find the sound that you want. Now, at first when I heard that, I thought, what's the point of that? But you know, the more I think about it, the cleverer I think it is, and the more intuitive I think it is. To just be able to say, okay, this is my sound, I'll put my finger on it and I'll just move it around till it does what I want. And it's called chunky, so I want it more chunky, I want it less chunky. Further to that, you can then start to program your own in focus view. So you have customizable zones and you then morph between them. So you can take the same amp and come up with 4 completely wildly different settings of that amp and move between them. So if you think, oh, I've got that amp sounding great there, it's got lots of bottom end and it's got, you know, it's a bit scooped, but it's got lots of gain, but I want it a bit less scooped, so you move it slightly towards the less scooped version. Yeah, I like that. I do. I didn't at first, but I do now. Okay, cabs. Right, so we've got the standard thing where you can move your microphone around and further away, side by side, etc., etc. But you've also got a graphic EQ, a tilt EQ, and a parametric EQ in your cab section as well. So you can EQ your cabs as much as you want. Then the other cool thing, and remember, this is a platform, it's turning into a computer and more than just a modeler, it's working like a whole ecosystem. So now you can put notes into your patches. So there's an example that they give. So that you can put your instrument in, you can put what it's designed to playback on, name your snapshots, describe them, then say what your pedals do, say what your stomps do. You could then go on and say, okay, well, it's designed by me and it's designed for this person, for this song. You can put whatever you want into those notes and that will stay in that patch. Very, very handy. You know when you're setting up your patches and you play and you tweak and you play and you tweak and you play. Well, with this, what you can do is you can play into it and you can record a little loop and then hands-free tweak your parameters in your amp. That's a great idea. It really is. Right, the buttons on it. This is clever. Look, this is an example. This does a similar thing. This is a MIDI captain. Now this has only got 10 buttons. The Helix has got 12. But this little parameter thing, this A, B, 2 layers thing, lets you have 1, 2 of them. And you have one button that switches you between your A layer and your B layer. So in effect, you've got 22 buttons on one patch. That's a lot. Now they haven't said how many snapshots you can get, but I'm guessing it's going to be a little bit more. There's a new file system. So basically they're running it like you would a desktop. So they've got nested folders. So you've got folders for your IRs, your favorites, anything you want, and you can have thousands and thousands of IRs and favorites and things like that. You can store your set lists. You're going to have 126 set lists. 126. I haven't got any. Presets. Start from templates. So you're not starting from scratch all the time. You've got loads of templates. You can have stock templates, or you can set your own templates up, which is going to make your workflow a lot faster. You can import patches from the older units, so you're not going to lose all the stuff you've done on your old Helix. You just drop it in and upgrade it. I think what they're doing is they're losing some of the older cab models, so upgrade them before you do, and then you just drop all your patches in and you're good to go. Now, as far as the layout of the screen is concerned, there are 4 stereo paths, each with 12 blocks. So you've got 24 blocks for your effects. 24 blocks. Then you can have multiple splits and merges. They cost you a block each, but you've got an awful lot to play with there. 24 blocks. You get a better knob. Sorry, I'm making my own gags up. You get a better output knob. So there's a big output knob. I need to say knob less. So this output knob has 3 buttons above it, and you pick which output by pressing the button, and then that knob then controls that output. So for instance, you want to turn your headphones down, you press the headphone button and you turn them down. Easy as that. Okay. I've noticed it's got a set of play buttons on it as well. Now they haven't mentioned what that's for. They might not have decided what it's for yet. Okay, this is a big one. They've got what's called the Matrix Q Mixer. This is what it looks like. Okay, and this is for your outputs. So you get an independent mix for each output. Your headphone outputs have got one mix, your XLRs can have a different mix, all of them get a different mix. So the things in the mixer are 2 USB ins, a Bluetooth audio in, an auxiliary in, a metronome, 8 stereo audio tracks. 8 stereo audio. We'll come on to them in a minute, but this is going to, because this really is going to blow your mind. Now, a metronome, well, yes, you can use it for practicing, but you can also send your metronome to your drummer. So you get your click track in there. Might be useful. As far as global EQs are concerned, there's a parametric on every single output, an independent parametric. So you got your XLR outs have got a parametric on them, your headphone outs have got a parametric on them, etc., etc. Every parameter in the unit can be mapped to your expression pedal. They've got this thing called XY control, which is, again, finger on the screen. You can move it up and down that way and side to side that way. So you maybe have 2 parameters. For instance, you might have gain and mid. So you have your gain, goes up, after gainy, 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 I want to lose some mid. So you move across and you got more gain but less mid. But then you might want more gain and more mid. So you just move your finger around on these 2 parameters and it gives you all the possibilities of those 2 things. Cool. Then there's the showcase automation. Oh man. This, you know what? People build systems just to do this one thing. And now you can do it in your guitar pedal board. So you can load songs and audio and save them inside a preset. So for instance, if you've got a song you like to jam along to, you'll load it into your Helix and it will save a preset with that song. So every time you go back to it to jam along to it, you've got the same preset with all the snapshots and all the bits and pieces that you want to go with it. Then you've got you've got a stem splitter inside your Helix. So if you want to, you can take a song from your MP3 collection, drop it into Helix, then use the stem splitter and remove the guitars so you can jam along to it, or you can remove the vocals, you can remove the bass, you can remove the drums. Imagine if you're a solo artist that plays the tracks. You just dump the original song in, remove the vocal, remove the guitar, and do them yourself, and you're away. Wow. Then it gets even more interesting because you can put flags through the track, and those flags will do things. So you put a flag somewhere, it will then follow a command that you give it. So for instance, you might say, okay, it's got to the beginning of the chorus, I'm going to put a flag there and it's going to change my guitar sound. And then I'm going to put a flag at the end of the chorus and it's going to change my guitar sound back. So you're changing guitar sounds without having to touch it whilst your backing track is playing. It gets more interesting than that, because you can put flags in and you can change the order of the sections of that song. You could have sections that repeat and you can do it on the fly. So I want to go around that section again. You might want to make your solo longer and go around the solo again. And you can do that on the fly by putting these flags in and controlling them with your foot pedals. You can set those flags up with your looper and then you can layer over the top of it. So for instance, first chorus comes around, you sing your vocal and it records it. Second chorus comes around, it plays back your recording because it's a looper, and you sing the next harmony up. Or you play the next harmony up, or whatever you want to do. That's clever. That's really clever. You can, because it's MIDI and it's got controllers and things like that, you can set up your flags to run your lighting controller. So if you want the lights to change when you get to the chorus, you can set it up to do that. You can set it up to record patches and other devices, so you can have it change drum sounds if you've got MIDI drums. You can have it change keyboard sounds. You can use it for video cues. You know when you've got these big shows and they've got the video screens behind? You can put flags in your track to change your video cues. And if you don't want to run it with a track and you just want to step through all of those flags and cues, you can do that by just recording them onto a sequence, and you press one button again and again and again, next flag, next flag, next flag, next flag. And that could be video sequences, it could be lighting shows, it could be sending anything you like. That's really powerful. So you effectively get a fully automated stage. Now, you know what? That's been done on computers for quite a while now. And the systems that do it are really sophisticated and really very, very expensive and difficult to run. Now you can do it with your pedal board as a guitar player. Wow. Okay. The Nexus thing. Okay, extras. God, I'm tired. We've just, you know what it is? We've just had this presentation from line 6, and I'm straight in doing this video, and it's now 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to edit this yet. Oh, man. Anyway, extras. So you can buy an expression pedal, which means if you buy the little one, you can put the pedal on this side, or you can put 2 together on the big one. And apparently it sits and it matches in perfectly, in, well, as you'd expect. There's a new backpack. Get in. You know, I'm not excited about the backpack, because if you're going to use a Helix, surely you'd want it on your pedal board on the floor, and then you run your other stuff like your wireless and any other bits and pieces you need on your pedal board. Backpack, that's a meh from me. It's got Wi-Fi. Yep, Wi-Fi in your Helix, so you can do your updates by Wi-Fi. You can hook it into your home network. It's got a strobe tuner, wireless editing. Now, I'm interpreting that as a phone app or an iPad app, or possibly are you going to be able to have, instead of having an editor on your computer that you then hook up with a USB cable, are you going to be able to then just go home, get your Helix out and edit it across your own network at home? That'll be quite handy because it is a bit of a, it's not that big a deal, but you know what, to just get it out, open it up on your computer, not have to faff about with leads, that's nice. And then here's a cool one, automatic wireless updates. So instead of having the hassle of the Line 6 edit and then having to download your update and then transfer it to your pedal, it's just going to do it wirelessly and that's it. You don't even have to think about it. That's really useful and nice. They're introducing sidechain compression and gates, and then they're saying there's a lot of mystery stuff that they can't talk about yet. Well, the mind boggles. Price. So the two prices are the Stadium XL, which is the big one. It's going to come in at $2,199, and this is in US dollars. And the smaller one, the Stadium, is going to be $1,799. In Europe, or certainly in the UK, what usually happens is that price translates to pounds. So in the UK, this new Helix is going to be £2,000. It's not cheap. It does a lot, but it's not cheap. Okay, so, you know what? I think the future is very interesting and very exciting, and they've come up with some things there that I would certainly have never in a million years thought would appear in a guitar modeler. So, I'm going to edit this video now, and then I'll crawl into bed. But yeah, if you've watched this far, well done. Give me a like and subscribe. I think I've earned it. And I'll see you in another video. Cheers.